The Fox City SCORE chapter and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biz Talk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences from starting to sustaining growth. Learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you missed anything, you can catch the Biz Talk podcast at biztalkwithscore.com. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biz Talk on WHBY.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Biz Talk with Score. We really appreciate you listening in. I hope all of you are thawing out from that freeze during the week and are off to a good weekend. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce my co-host this week. It's Mary Rohde. Mary, welcome to the show.
Hi, Terry. Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Great. And our guest this week is what I say is probably a relatively unique business in the area. I think it's a really good story. But we have Melanie Kalmerton on the show, and she is the co-owner with her husband Grant of the North Road Flower Farm. So we're going to talk about that today. So to get started, Melanie, tell us first about your background and what led to the flower business.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me today, Terry. So my background, when I was in my early 20s, I was going to school for sociology. And I took a sociology class that was based on rural sociology. So it talked a lot about agriculture. And as part of that class, we took a field trip to 3 different farms in the area. And one of them was like a small veggie farm. And they were offering internships when we went to visit. And that was my first kind of introduction to small scale, high intensity growing. So I worked there for a summer when I believe I was 20 at the time, and it's Old and Organics out of Ripon. And so I was introduced to starting vegetables from seed, planting and harvesting out in the field. And it was something that was really, really interesting to me. And I became passionate with it very quickly. And so that actually spurred me to change my major to environmental studies. Some of the friends that I made at that farm were going to school for environmental studies. And so I quickly switched majors and finished up my degree in environmental studies, and all along the way was starting to experiment with growing seeds and veggie gardening and all that. And I worked at another veggie farm as well, Park Ridge Organics over on the east side of the lake in Fond du Lac. And after I finished up with school, I started working in the conservation field. So I was working with farmers more from like a water quality conservation practice perspective with a land conservation department in Fond du Lac. And I was there for 9 years. And all throughout the way, my husband and I ended up buying our house out in Pickett, where we're at today and where the farm is today. And we started a big veggie garden and eventually got a little greenhouse set up, and had a lot of failures and trials and tribulations with just having the hobby of growing vegetables. And then when I was, I was in my late 20s, mid to late 20s is when I got introduced to flowers as an addition to the veggie garden. So I started kind of adding a couple different flower varieties into the veggie garden, and eventually grew flowers for my sister's wedding, which was in 2019, and just really got hooked by the beauty. And, I will say I was not good at designing with flowers at first, but I practiced a lot and tried, and just really, really became enthralled by the idea of growing flowers on a larger scale and as something potentially as more than a hobby. So in 2021 is when, that winter before we got into the season of 2021, is when I kind of pitched my idea to Grant, was like, what do you think? Do you think we should try this? And he was like, well, what do we have to lose? It sounds like a great idea. There's, potential there. And so that first season, 2021, is when we really, really just dipped our toes into the water, super small scale, just had a few rows of flowers in our vegetable plot and made up bouquets and brought them to Poco Pizza, which is a farm to freezer pizza store in Van Dyne. And then we've kind of slowly grown from there.
And so when you first started to sell, then you were selling a few bouquets a week, I assume, and just seeing how it worked?
Yep. I think the most we ever brought to Sean would be like 10 a week, if that. And
And so how did you, so first of all, you have to put the bouquets together. I mean, after you're growing them and everything. So did you go out to other flower shops and look online and different things to see how to design the bouquets you wanted to?
yep, it was a lot of following flower farms on Instagram, looking at other flower farms websites and different designs online, and watching a lot of YouTube videos and things like that. And honestly, for me, though, it was a lot of trial and error. Like the first bouquets that I put together were just, I look back at them now and I'm like, oh my goodness, those are not, I don't like them anymore. But at the time, you're working with what you have, because you don't know what you don't know. So in the beginning, I wasn't sure how many of what types of varieties of flowers I would need to grow at one time to have the right mix of ingredients and colors. So sometimes I was working with, a limited color palette that week, and the bouquets just were what they were. And as I've gotten a lot better at designing and growing and timing the quantity and the color palettes to kind of be blooming at the same time, it's much improved. And with any like craft, it feels awkward at first when you're putting a bouquet together in your hand, but over time, the more you do it, the more it becomes natural, and the more your style kind of evolves, and you kind of figure out what you like, and you just got to practice a lot.
Okay. So you do this in 2021, you do your trials. What
Yep.
made you feel good enough about where you were to say, okay, I'm going to try something bigger now?
Okay, yeah. So the next step in our business after working, well, I got a lot of positive feedback from Sean, who, bless his heart, like just it really, I feel like, took me and Grant under his wing, and he didn't have to in the beginning, giving us a platform and a place to be and sharing our business with his customers and all that. So I got a lot of positive feedback from him and his customers. And in fall of 2021 was when I reached out to a local florist in Oshkosh, Jim Kolb. Many people know House of Flowers. And I had let him know that Grant and I are growing flowers out just outside Oshkosh, and um, would he be interested in meeting or talking about what we do and seeing a little bit of what we grow or what we're planning for the next season. And so I made up a bouquet and brought some flowers into him, and we talked, and he discussed the possibility of us doing the local farmer bouquets for his flower shop. So that would be a set amount of bouquets every week, once again. Kind of similar to what I was doing with Sean, where I would make up a certain amount of bouquets every week and bring them there. And so knowing that Jim was interested in that, and we would be able to kind of say, okay, if we're doing X amount of bouquets every week, it equates to, the crop planning and all that. In those beginning years, that was very, very helpful for me to be able to just do something small, but a sure thing, every week. So yeah, I would say talking to Jim in the fall about doing the local farmer bouquets for 2022 was what kind of, and hearing all the positive feedback from Sean and his customers, and people were starting to reach out a little bit here and there, inquiring about, whether we had other services and things like that. So that it seemed like there was some potential there to keep going.
So is that when you then had to look at expanding?
Yeah.
Obviously, 2 rows of flowers probably isn't enough as you grow. How did you
Yeah.
do it? What did you do? First the
Uh,
planting, and then where'd you move to grow?
yeah,
Well, and in
okay, so,
addition,
yes.
Go ahead, Mary.
yeah, I was gonna add on to that too and just ask. So, I mean, there had to be kind of this, call it a tipping moment, right? Of like, okay, well, your sales were starting to ramp up. People were interested in your product, but yet you really weren't quite sure if this business was going to fly and soar, right? And so it was kind of that weird in between moment where you probably knew you had to procure, more space to grow more to meet the demand. And how did you kind of navigate that and handle that?
Grant was very helpful in that. He's more of the guy who's like, this is like a tiny risk. Like if we tear up our front lawn and buy a bunch of seeds and grow a bunch of flowers and it doesn't land, like what are we losing? And he comes from his family. They own a Kalmerton Welding Supplies. So they're a welding supplies business on South Main. So they deal with, a big industry and high overhead and lots of products. So for him, he was like, this is this is nothing, like don't freak out. Don't worry about anything. Let's just go with it and see how it goes. So, I would say like I tend to be more the like, oh my God, how's this gonna work? Da 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 type thing. And he's more just like, chill, stop it. So we tore up our front lawn. That's what we did. We had a garden plot. Our garden that we grow in was like a little fenced in 30 by 30 square on the side of our house. And our front lawn, we were able to fit in like 10 3 foot wide by 90-foot long beds. We have a really big front yard, and it's kind of bordered by a tree line in our front of our property by the road, and then some trees on either side, our driveway, and then our house. So it's a big, huge square. And to us, we were like, all right, this is a nice big space. So I have pictures from back in fall of 22 where we had our like layout all figured out, and we had to kill the sod, rounded up the grass, and then go in and till. And so that, I mean, it takes a long time to bring a new field online if it's not currently in agriculture, because you have to kill that existing grass. So we started in fall of 2022 prepping our front yard beds, and we call that the front yard field now. So yeah, we kind of went for it. So we had a lot of now longer and wider, like more production space. Instead of just having a couple rows in a square garden, we had full flower beds of 3 feet by 90 feet, and a lot of them in our front lawn. So
Did you have to add a greenhouse too?
yes. So we had that little greenhouse on our deck. It was like a 6 foot by 8 foot Harbor Freight kit. Anyone can buy it, super cheap. And we actually limped that along for another 2 years. So it was like the poly was kind of getting cloudy, and it was sort of, I mean, they're chintzy, so it was like falling apart. Grant had like wrapped it with plastic wrap and shored it up with wood and stuff. I mean, it was ugly, like an eyesore, and it was right on our deck. So yeah, it was not pretty, but it worked. And then now we tore that down so it would have been 2024, like winter, early spring. We knocked that down, and we bought plans on Etsy, and we built a cute little seed starting propagation house kind of away from our front deck. So now we kind of, as we sort of expanded outward from our like square garden next to our house and the greenhouse on our deck, now we've gotten our side yard back, and we've knocked the greenhouse down. We got our deck back. And so now we kind of have it set up more where we've got a field in the front yard, and then we've got our greenhouse next to the pole building. So kind of to backtrack, the greenhouse is the first one that we had, the ugly one, and now the ones that we have now. We actually have two now. We just built another one, is where our seedlings go after they get started. So we have a big pole building on the property, a 30 by 40 foot heated space, and we have a bunch of shelving in there with heat mats. And so I do all my seeds starting in there. So the soil goes in the trays, and the seeds get germinated and grow to their like first set of true leaves in the heated space in our pool building or in our garage. And then they go outside from there into the greenhouse, where they kind of get acclimated to natural light, and we can open up the doors and they get, wind and all that. And then from there they go out into the field.
Okay. So we're at the point for our first break. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back after these messages.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to this episode of Biz Talk with Score. Glad you joined us this morning. And before we continue our conversation with Melanie from the North Road Flower Farm, I'd like to take just a moment here to tell you a bit more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. SCORE Northeast Wisconsin serves an 18-county area in Northeast Wisconsin, plus the county of Menominee in Michigan. We have over 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no cost and confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, HR, retail, best practices, and many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within just a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. To support small business people, SCORE Northeast Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button, and fill out the short application. We will get back to you to explain more. And thanks again for joining us on Biz Talk. And now we're going to get back to our conversation here with Melanie from North Road Flower Farm. Melanie, you had a wonderful experience with Keith Keller, who was your SCORE mentor. Talk through us just kind of that initial interaction with Keith and some of the main things that he really helped you focus on and helped you out with as you were starting your business.
Yeah, for sure. So we had kind of talked up about the business up through 2022, and it was in 2022 that in talking with Liz from Thunderbird Bakery, she had mentioned that her and her husband did the SCORE mentorship program and that it was really beneficial for them. And she had just recommended it as something I should look into if I was, looking for mentorship or help as we were growing the business. And so I looked at the website and looked into it and definitely thought it was worth exploring. I had already had a flower farming mentor at that point in time, but no one as far as just like the business side of things went. And so as we were really starting to grow a little bit more, I really felt like that was a necessity for me because this was the first time starting my own business. I didn't go to school for business, so I just wanted to have as much help as I could from the beginning. So I reached out, got paired with Keith, and he really helped me with something that I probably avoided too much up until then, which is just like looking at the analytics and the numbers and working in spreadsheets. And now that I do it and I've done it, it's not a big deal. But in the beginning, I think if you're not like a numbers person or a spreadsheet person from the get-go, that can be like the thing that's so intimidating to you, and just like really making sure that you have your business plan and your financial projections and your budgeting and all that kind of to give you a roadmap to go forward that's realistic. So yeah, I would say Keith was a tremendous help. We met in person, we met over Zoom, we emailed, and he would share resources with me, and I would work on things on my time and then send it back to him to kind of review and talk about. And so yeah, that was in 2022 that we started meeting, and he really helped me to formulate kind of a growth plan and be more comfortable just like looking at the numbers, month to month. And I had at that point as well gotten a bookkeeper. So once again, not being really a good numbers person, I knew that the books would be just messy and ugly if I tried to do them myself. So that was the other person that I knew I needed kind of on my side or on my team from the beginning. So at that point in time too, I was starting to really entertain the idea of leaving my full-time job and going full-time with the business. So that was another thing that was really helpful to have Keith, with just the business background that he does, help me kind of work through that. What do you need to look at to know if and when the time is right and all that. So yeah, definitely highly recommend.
So in your early days of mentoring, what was something that Keith maybe shared with you that has kind of stuck with you and helped to lead you through some other challenges that you've maybe encountered along the way?
Oh, honestly, I think kind of just what I said, which is really honing in on, what your sales outlets are and having a good business plan and, good projections to kind of guide you through. Setting goals for my business that are both realistic and going to lead to growth every year. I think we kind of flounder without goals. And so being able to sit down with Keith, drop a business plan, drop, year to year, going a few years into the future, what those numbers look like, what the growth looks like, what the plan for the business looks like, just really gave me a lot of confidence to go for it and to try these things, and knowing that you can kind of, obviously the best laid plans sometimes, but you can adjust off of that kind of framework that you've set for yourself a lot easier than if you're just kind of winging it. So I would say that was really beneficial for me in the early years.
Let's look back, and then with Keith and the work he did, how important was to where your business ended up?
How important was it working with Keith? Very
Yep.
important. Very important.
Did you, and as you look at going forward, would you recommend this to other people as well?
Yes, absolutely. I really think working with Keith was my first step into truly feeling like I was a business owner.
Yeah. So on that, we're going to take a break. We've given Keith enough good comments for a couple months, so we'll let it go with that. You're listening to Biz Talk with Score and WHBY. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. We're talking to Melanie Kalmerton, co-owner with her husband Grant of the North Road Flower Farm. And before we get back to Melanie, I want to just give you a quick education update with Score. So first of all, if you go to the Score website, that's score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, there's a tab up near the top of the page that's called Workshops and Events. So would strongly recommend you doing that. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different videos that you can go in and take a look at. Many are recorded webinars. There's also live events where you can see it before they become recorded webinars, but they cover the gamut of topics on small business. So it's an opportunity to learn and educate, and most of them are free. There's two I want to mention that are coming up. So live events that you could sign in for. So one of them is email marketing strategies. So one technique that many small businesses find useful is doing email marketing through emails. And this show on February 4th will help you do and learn about email marketing. So you can go into the course and register to join and join live for February 4th. It's 1 hour. The other one I'm going to mention is strategies and tips for outsourcing for small business. So many small businesses end up having to outsource part of what they do so they can focus on the things they're really good at. And this is an opportunity to get you thinking about it and how to do it. And it's on February 11th. Again, it's 1 hour. And for both, you go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, all one word. And you will check the workshops and events tab, go into upcoming live events, and you'll see those two and many others as well that are coming here, opportunities to learn for free. So take advantage of those as a great resource, and many of them really add a lot of value. So with that, now we're going to turn back to Melanie. And Melanie, we talked in the previous two episodes, we worked up through 2022 and how you got some help going into 2023 from Score, and also a mentor in the flower farming business. Let's talk a little bit then about what happened from there. How did 2023 go, and how did that lead into 2024 and success you had then?
Yep. So March of 2023 is when I left my full-time job. So that was a big year for us and for me. I was able to focus fully on the flower farm. Up until then, there was only so much I could take on because I was working full-time. So I really had to be limited as to what I could do. And 2023 being the first year I was able to focus on it full time kind of became a little bit more of the sky's the limit, or we can add things that we've been thinking about or talking about adding that we haven't been able to yet. So at this point now, we've got our website. We're doing Friday farm stand. Well, it was Friday flower cooler when we just had a cooler on our property. And then this year we actually have a nice farm stand set up now. So we were doing Fridays on the farm. People could come grab and go bouquets, self-serve checkout from the flower cooler. That was the first year that we did our bouquet subscription program. So we brought our bouquet subscription on in 2023 as well. And I started doing what I call, so now flash forward to, this year and last year, or this year we're doing full service weddings and a la carte weddings. 2023 was when I first started doing just a la carte weddings. So what that means is more just small scale weddings, pick up on the farm, sort of a looser color palette and vibe so that I could just design with what we were growing on the farm. So going into 2023, I left my full-time job in March, started growing and selling flowers full-time. So we were able to do more with wholesale flowers and then do more with direct to consumer and retail side of things as well.
Okay. So as you look at every year, you've been adding things to your business. And
Yeah.
as you look at that and where you go, can you talk just a little bit about some of the things you've done for this year? I know you rented some land and things like that to help continue to grow the business.
Yep. So yeah, 2023, we added on more sales outlets, more different things we were trying. 2024 was the first year we were able to bring employees onto the farm, so I was able to get help on the flower farming side of things and on the flower processing and bouquet making side of things, so that I could concentrate more in the areas that I needed to concentrate on and not be trying to do it all by myself at that point in time because it was getting to be too much for me to do all by myself. So as we head into 2025, 2024 felt amazing because of the help that we had on the farm. It was the first year where I feel like we got to fall, and instead of having all this like farm cleanup work and all these things that I should do but didn't have time for or didn't have time to do as well as I wanted to, it felt like the first year where it was like we're doing all the things that we're supposed to be doing and we're doing them well. You know, we're cleaning up the fields at the end of the season. We're getting all the dahlias dug up and separated. We harvested the seed that we wanted to harvest. The farm got, cleaned up and tidy at the end of the season. All the stuff that we needed to plant in fall got done, and it didn't feel like we were behind schedule or too busy. And so as we come into 2025, we're just continuing to, I would say, get better at growing and get better at running a business so that things are flowing better and are more standardized. So 2024, we got a tractor, and we got an implement to attach to the tractor to kind of prep beds for us. And going into 2025, we have rented ground now as well because we've outgrown our space here at the house. So as we move into 2025, what we're going to be focusing more on is like standardized beds. And so that really helps so much with the crop planning and the seed starting because we will know all of our beds are this wide and this long, and we have the machinery on site now to be able to prep those well, and we have more seed starting space so we can start everything that we want to start and not be running out of room. So yeah, I would just say like getting better workflows and standardization and just efficiencies on both the flower farming side of things and the floristry side of things as well.
Okay. So let's step back for a second and just walk through what's involved in growing flowers. So, one of the first things is when do you plant? How do you plant and grow? Is there transferring from the greenhouse out to the fields, pottery barn to greenhouse, however it works? Can you walk us through that?
Yes. So I will say that every season starts the season before. So for everything that we're growing in 2025, if you're not starting some things in 2024, you're not going to be set up to have flowers as early and as full season as you want to be. So my goal is to have flowers as early as I can and as late as I can, which means that we are actually starting some flowers that we will harvest in 2025 as seeds in 2024. And seed starting is not as much. So if you're a gardener, you might seed start for a couple months out of the year, plant your garden all in one big wave and then be done with it until it's time to harvest. But we want to be harvesting the amount of stems that we want to sell per week every week for 25 weeks. So we are seed starting, planting out, harvesting, almost constantly throughout the year. There is a gap in seed starting. We put our last seeds in the ground or seeds in a tray to start to plant out into the field in June. And then in August is when we start more seeds again for the next season. So there's like a 1 month period that we're really not starting seeds. Otherwise, we're always starting seeds. So when I'm talking about early flowers in 2025, we would start seeds once again in our pole building under grow lights on heat mats and then out into the greenhouse in August or September to plant out in fall. And those are what are called tender perennials or hardy annuals, and they can actually survive a Wisconsin winter, and then they come up and they bloom that next season. So we're planting out things to get flowers in June, in fall. We also plant out our tulips in fall, and our tulips are for flowers at the end of April through May. And then once we have our fall stuff planted, we take a break again from seed starting and planting through the winter months, but then we're already starting seeds now again in January because some stuff takes a really long time to grow and it likes cold weather, and so it can handle being planted out early. So we're starting things that have, like, let's say 120 day grow window or 130, 35 now to be planted out before our last frost to get flowers in June. So it starts now and it doesn't really stop from there. It just kind of continues to ramp up.
Okay.
So the whole process, you had asked that.
Yeah.
So the whole process from seed to a flower in a vase is starting a seed. And I typically start in, this is a little bit technical jargon, but if someone gardens, they probably know it's called a 10-20 tray. And I do soil blocking. And so instead of having like a plastic insert where I fill the little holes up with soil, I actually have like a mold that I like fill with soil and press soil blocks down. And so each flower that ends up in a bouquet that someone gets is a seed started by hand, most likely by me, or now this year Tara as well, my employee who helps with the seed starting. And if you're not seed starting, some seeds can be directly planted out into the ground, just like you would plant corn or soybeans. No one's starting corn from seed inside. They're planting it directly out in the field. So we're either seed starting or planting directly out into the field. And then you're tending to that seedling with, nutrients and water and pinching sometimes is something that we do for certain flowers. So instead of having just one plant grow up tall and give maybe just one flower, if you pinch it and it branches out, you get multiple stems, usable cut flower stems from one plant. So then there's pinching. Some flowers need to be netted. And what I mean by that is there's like a horizontal netting that goes over the bed of flowers so that when they grow up, they have support and they don't flop over from wind or heavy rain. And then it's just a matter of once it's out in the field and you've done, what you can do to help that plant along and thrive, you're waiting until it's ready to be harvested. And each plant has a specific harvest needs. Some have a shorter window of harvest, some have a longer window of harvest. There's different, ways to know when to cut a flower so that you're ensuring highest quality, longest vase life for the customer. So a lot of times people are surprised if they come out and they don't see a lot of flowers blooming in the field, but that just means we're doing our job right, because if a flower is bloomed in the field, then it's not going to have a long vase life for the customer. So we're cutting a lot of things when they're, tighter in bud or have a lot more opening to do in the vase. So yeah, that's kind of the process in a nutshell. I don't want to drone on too long about the technical stuff.
Your passion comes out as you start.
I could talk a lot about that. I really could. So I should probably stop there.
So when do you start harvesting, say during the 2025 season? When does it end?
Yep. 2025 season. So harvesting starts with tulips at the end of April. And technically we get some daffodils. We have some specialty daffodils on the farm that are blooming a little bit before tulips. Not a huge crop for us, but so in April is when we start harvesting flowers, and we are harvesting up until the last frost of the season, which is typically mid-October. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier, sometimes it's a little bit later. But so going back to talking about how we're always starting seeds and always planting stuff out, we like to have fresh material to be working with all season long. So we always plan for, maybe that third week in October being our frost date, where the field will be completely wiped out by frost. And so that being said, the last stuff that we're really starting and planting out is in end of June, July timeframe to grow through July, August, and then be blooming at the end of September through October. So that's kind of our last flush of flowers.
Okay. So a lot of different things to cover. One of the and not enough time as usual. But one thing I do want to talk about quickly is the bouquet subscriptions. We talked a little bit about it offline and mentioned it earlier, but can you tell people a little bit about that, because it's a pretty unique way of selling, and talk about how you came up with the idea, what it is, and how it works.
Yep. So it's not a new concept. Florists and flower farms oftentimes will offer bouquet subscriptions. It is a really nice program to get involved with if you love flowers, if you want to have fresh flowers in your home on a weekly basis or in your office on a weekly basis, or if you want to gift something to someone who loves flowers, or you're looking for a unique gift idea to someone. So we have people that sign up for the program. We always open it up in November to kind of allow people to sign up for the following season for Christmas gifting. And then it's open and available to sign up until that subscription kicks off for the season. So we have, like I said, it's not a new concept, but we kind of tailored it to what we are growing and how it kind of best works for us here on the farm. So I absolutely love tulips. I love the unique varieties of tulips, and I love growing them, and people really love them too, because they're just a really unique variety and color that you can't really get normally. So this year we're growing about 15,000 tulips, and the first bouquet subscription of the season is 4 weeks of tulip bouquets. So we just pack a ton of tulips into a bouquet, and for 4 weeks, people are getting to sample a variety of all the different tulips that we're growing here on the farm. And the way we kind of work the bouquet subscription program is we have a farm stand with a nice flower cooler in it, so people can pick up on the farm if that's convenient for them. So local folks or people that don't mind maybe, the drive from Oshkosh or Ripon out to pick it will come to the farm every week to pick up their bouquet. We also offer home deliveries, pickup locations. So people who live in Neenah or Appleton or Fond du Lac or in Oshkosh that don't want to drive out to the farm have the option to pick up a bouquet from a local business. So we've been really lucky to partner with some awesome local businesses in the area, and we drop off the bouquets, and people have a time frame that they can come and pick up the bouquets, and they get to pop into, a coffee shop or a wine bar or a farm store at a veggie farm, or a print shop now this year, because we're working with a mono in Appleton, as a Appleton pickup location for the first time this year. So, to kind of overview the remaining ones that we have a summer subscription then that goes 8 weeks long. And then we have a fall subscription that's 4 weeks, and it features dahlias. And then if you want to sign up for the whole thing, you can sign up for the full 16 weeks.
Has that surprised you at how successful it's been?
Yes, it has, because it is, I think, such a commitment on the customer's part to say, yeah, I'll take bouquets every week from you. And on our part, it's such an amazing connection to have with a customer that they are interested in not just buying a one bouquet from you here or there, but that they're wanting to sign up and have flowers from you every week. So it's a great program for us, and I just love that people are interested in it. So anytime someone purchases flowers from us or buys anything from us, I'm kind of always a little bit floored, but.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up this segment with just a topic that always interests me in farming, and that's weather. And how does weather affect the farm and what you do and when you do it?
Yeah, weather is weather. Once you are working in the outdoors, in the elements and working with Mother Nature, it's definitely something that you pay more attention to than you ever have before. So basically you just need to be very aware of your windows of time to get the field prepped and to get things planted. And you got to be uncomfortable with not being 100% sure of anything. You just have to, when we're planting stuff out in the early season, you're working against, snowstorms and rain and mud and all that. And Then in the warmer months, you're working against drought and lack of rain, and you just never really know what each season is going to be different. And a lot of times, you can think about it too much, but really you just have to keep an eye on the weather, take advantage of those windows when you have them to get best prepped and to get things out in the field, and work with it as best you can.
Great. It's time to take our last break before the final segment. You're listening to Biz Talk or Score on WHBY. We'll be right back. I'd like to thank the sponsors and donors who bring Biz Talk or Score to you each weekend. We couldn't present Biz Talk without their generous support. Thank you to Hailing & Associates. Hailing & Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan ahead, thereby helping customers minimize taxes for this year and beyond. Hailing & Associates, personal connection, positive results. Thank you to the Johnson Financial Group. Wherever you are in your life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works with you to understand your goals, matching your right banking and wealth services to help you complete your mission. Thank you, the Business News, for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin. The paper is delivered biweekly and contains relevant and useful information about the business community in this area. We'd also like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation in support of Biz Talk and Score Northeast Wisconsin. And with that, we'll turn back to Melanie. And Melanie, could you let our listeners know how they can find North Road Flower Farm?
Yeah. Yep. So our website is www.northroadflowerfarm.com. That has a contact us page. You can see on there just our email, phone number, or you can fill that form entry out directly and submit it to us. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at North Road Flower Farm. And that's how people contact us.
Okay. So as we wrap up, we talked a lot about the farming aspect and building your business in the show, but we didn't talk as much about the floral and the florist part of it. Could you talk about what that means to you and what you learned as you went on this journey?
Yeah. So when Grant and I started the farm, my background was in growing and in agriculture, and I was really excited about the flower farming aspect of it. And I still am to this day, but what I didn't realize was how much I was going to fall in love with floristry. And now if someone asked me to pick between the two, I don't think I could, because I think I love the floristry side of things equal as farming. It's just being able to take what you grow and create something beautiful with it that in the beginning, I wasn't sure of my skill set, and I didn't know if I had that floristry side in me. But the more that I practiced and worked with flowers, and the more that I just fell in love with what we grew, the more that the floristry side of things just really bloomed within me, for lack of a better word. That's such a cliche, but it's so true. And now, they just pair so well together, because now I'm thinking about my crop plan and what I want to grow and when I want to grow it based on whose wedding is coming up in June or July and what their color palette is and what the vibe is and all that. And I'm thinking about the color palettes that I want to bring to the farmers market and to my bouquet subscriber members. And okay. It's just something that I didn't realize I was going to be so passionate about and that I've just fallen in love with.
All right, great. First of all, thank you for being a guest in the show. You have a fantastic story of how a business can start up and grow and be successful. And we hope you have all the success in the future, too, that you've already had, and that it continues to grow and becomes everything you want. So really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. Okay.
And thank you to our listeners. You've been listening to Biz Talk with Score and WHBY. You can go to our Score website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, or go to biztalkwithscore.com and go to those sites, and you'll find previous episodes from the last 6 years or so. You can also go out to your favorite podcatcher, such as iTunes or Amazon, and you'll find this show starting next Wednesday, and our previous shows for the last year or so as well out on those podcatchers. So thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend, and take care.